Razzle Dazzle Music Movies is changing, and one of the ways that we've been considering changing revolves around the idea of also selling video games. Now, if you have not been following the store, let's rewind back to April when I purchased the inventory from an online media store and got delivered here at the mall. You might actually want to check that out, so I'll post it as a pinned comment because it revolved around renting out a closed department store, borrowing a forklift on the fly, getting bailed out by the homie Sean, and several acts of God, but we made it work. That's all beside the point though. The point, video games. In those boxes that we got, there ended up being quite a lot of video games. And, well, we sell discs. Video games are discs. Why don't we sell video games? Before you get too hyped on this though, just a heads up, we are not going to be selling video games anytime soon. We did talk a little bit about that with some other shops in the mall, just kind of bouncing ideas off folks. And I think it's kind of a good idea in the long run, but it's really not us. We don't know anything about video games. Nothing against video games. I don't care about video games in the same way that I do music and movies. It's not a slight at all. It's just kind of reality. But another opportunity has opened up, and that opportunity is posters. Well, as you see, we've got posters here. We've always had posters. Posters are a part of what we have. We just do not sell posters at the moment. So part of that conversation that initially took me over to Spencer's to talk about video games wasn't really to talk about video games at all. It was to talk about posters and whether or not they would be cool if we sold them here at the mall because they sell posters. And I don't want there to be any kind of bad blood over posters. Posters are not worth the bad blood. And Spencer's, they were like, hell yeah, doggy, sell them posters. So we were like, hell yeah, we will sell those posters. The only problem is, where do we get posters from? I don't really know, but that's where another good thing happened. A friend Nate, who runs ZZZ Records over in Des Moines, which if you're ever in Des Moines, you should go there. It's probably the best record store in the entire city. It's my favorite record store in Des Moines. Anyways, Nate was like, well, partner, have I got some news for you? And he hooked me up with his poster connections. So now, technically, in the back room, we have posters. We have a poster rack. We're all postered up and ready to go. Just got to put the rack together and then figure out which posters we've actually ordered and how many I didn't order when I miscounted the original order, and get some more posters, but that, again, another problem for another day. At that point in time, though, we will be selling posters. But that actually brings me to another point altogether that I did want to bring up. And that is when I'm in these videos talking, it's just me. I'm the one here, right? But I keep saying we, as in like the royal we, Well, now that actually is a we. There are more than one of me. There are we. I want to speak to that just a little bit. See, a couple months ago, I started telling a story on social media. And that story began with me saying that I was giving up on the idea of working by myself. And then I proceeded to lay the foundation for what was to come in the video about the realities of opening a store in a low-key dead mall in a small Midwestern city, selling what probably the majority of people consider to be useless items given the state of how streaming media has evolved the last couple decades. And everything that I was saying in that video was actually real up until the point when I say I started looking for help. You see, in that video, help came in the form of a consulting firm that I'd hired that uses an on-site avatar that ended up being a deranged puppet that tried to take over the store. In real life, however, that help came in the form of actual humans. The puppet's name was Brandy, and I call that thing the Brandy Initiative. It's a story. It ended up in making this thing over there. You can see it in the corner. That's Buffalo Bill up there. Well, that's part of the story too. And while the Brandy Initiative was playing out on social media, we got to work behind the scenes, kicking some ass. Like, we brought another semi-truck's worth of CDs and DVDs into storage and then manually moved them out of storage into the back room, which actual humans did by way of actual labor, which, was a lot of work. I don't recommend it. It's not the easiest way to make a living. But what it does mean is that the back room is now filled to the gills with CDs and DVDs and a little bit of video games in there. And in that time, the last month and a half or so, you have probably seen that it's not just me standing at the counter if you've come into the store. And if you're not a fan of me, that's probably a good thing. But Stacy has been up there busting ass, getting discs ready, processing them, working through them, cleaning them, resurfacing them. And in that time, John and I have been in the back also busting ass, working on the online side of things, getting that back up and running. I'm going to do one more throwback to that I'm giving up video, to the part where I was talking about, hey, the online side of the business is collapsed because I don't have the ability to do everything at all times. Well, we've been working to get that back up. It's heading in the right direction. That's nice. But the reason to bring that up is because all of this is vital to the longer term success of the store. I want to make sure it's stable. I want to make sure that this is a thing and can be a thing for as long as it can. And I can't do that if it's just me here, opening, closing, doing every single thing every single day. Not sustainable. So what we're doing is we are trying to become as immune as possible to any retail apocalypse threat, which may or may not be real. I just like saying retail apocalypse. Sounds aggressive. And one of the things we'll be working on next is our eBay side of things, which I have what I think is kind of a novel idea about blending the in-store shopping experience with the eBay account. I will be interested to see how that develops and how y'all receive it. Because again, we are trying to develop this into something that is sustainable. It's hard as hell having a small business that sells freaking cassette tapes and DVDs and stuff like that. And it's really hard as hell to do all that and then pay the bills and then also have a wage and, eat. But thanks to everyone in the community for just accepting this place and like supporting and being just awesome. The reception to this store has been so much greater than anything that I could have ever imagined. And to that point, I'd also want to just talk about like where I'm at in all of this. The other day, I had a friend of the shop, Savannah. She was checking out. She was like, "Hey, what's up, dude? Why are you hiding in the back so much?" Like, Savannah, I'm not hiding in the back. I'm trying to work. I'm trying to get some stuff done. Savannah's giving me the business. Savannah's saying, no, why are you hiding from us? And that kind of touched my heart. Also made me feel a little bit bad, to be honest. Not because of what she said, but because so much of the last 8.5 months of my life has been just interacting with folks from behind that counter up there. And meeting people and being part of a community. And that is not something that I ever anticipated coming like as strong as it has. And that is just so incredibly amazing. And I'm so grateful and thankful for. And it's been really wild seeing how all of this has happened in a friggin' shopping mall in the middle of Iowa. That is awesome. No matter which way you cut it, this has been a success. So I'm not hiding in the back. I'm just working with John, trying to get that side of things up and running again. And then I'll be back out, and I'll be in the back, and I'll be up front, and I'll be all over. And sometimes up front, you'll see Sean. And sometimes up front, you'll see Stacy. Sometimes up front, you'll see John. And sometimes up front, you'll see me. And that's a lot of dudes, and that's a lot of dude names. But you got to know that our hearts are really invested in making this thing work. Because I would prefer to not ever go back to any sort of like office job or something like that, which provides nothing for my soul, whereas this thing does. And this thing also allows me to share myself and who I am and a little bit of what I want to see in the world. And that is so cool, regardless of whether or not video games are involved. So thank you for letting me ramble, and I hope to see you back in the store soon.